Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a new hurdle for asylum seekers. New rules take effect limiting who can enter the U.S. KPBS talks with people waiting in Tijuana. And new research shows how changing weather patterns bring greater fire risk to California.
We're not Santa Anita, that we have a much safer racetrack than they did, and our statistics are certainly much better.
The Delmar Racetrack is about to open its new season. How it's working to address horse safety after dozens of deaths at Santa Anita.
This is the very first program from the very first Comic-Con in 1970.
And a trip through Comic-Con history with a woman who's been there from the start. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Tuesday, July 16th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Seeking asylum in the U.S. just got harder. Today, new rules went into effect that bans anyone from entering the U.S. if they pass through another country, such as Mexico. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler spoke to migrants in Tijuana who say they're frustrated.
A little before 6 a.m., migrants began lining up at the San Isidro port of entry. They came to hear numbers called from an unofficial list that holds their spot for the few admissions the U.S. accepts for asylum processing every month. Some people have been waiting for months for their number to come up. Many people arrived with their suitcases, hoping that today they would finally call numbers. The new asylum rule would prevent most of these people from applying for asylum in the U.S. without first applying in Mexico. After 4 days of no new numbers being called, the migrants put in charge of the list announced they were, in fact, letting some people through. 7 to 8 people were allowed in. The crowd expressed their disappointment that so few people were being let in. A few minutes later, the van carrying the migrants to the United States left the carport with a child waving inside. But what happens next is unclear. The asylum seekers brought to the U.S. today could be deemed ineligible for asylum under the new rules because they transited through a third country on the way to the U.S. In federal court in San Francisco, the American Civil Liberties Union and other groups filed a lawsuit today against the new rules, claiming it violates U.S. law. For now, the asylum claims of thousands of people waiting in Tijuana and their hopes for a better future hinges on that case. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Activity resumes at Santa Anita. Workers are once again moving nuclear waste. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chetlani tells us what has caused these added delays.
The utility halted transfers nearly a year ago after a near-miss accident with one of the canisters. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission told SoCal Edison to hold off until it could review the incident and other safety concerns. And that review ended in May, when the NRC gave the utility the green light to resume. In a press release Monday, SoCal Edison says it didn't begin resuming transfers then, so it could focus on training staff and getting technologies to monitor the process. The NRC has said the canisters are safe, but some residents around San Onofre say they're concerned the canisters won't last on the beach in the long term. There are 44 canisters remaining that will be moved. Shalina Chetlani, KPBS News.
There's more evidence that a warming climate is fueling wildfires in California. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says a new study finds heat and a lack of rain are creating dangerous conditions.
Average summer temperatures are climbing and rain is falling less frequently in California's mountains. Researchers say that's creating conditions that'll allow for larger, damaging wildfires in the state. Alexander Gorshinov of the Scripps Institution of Oceanography is a study co-author. He says the report is further evidence that wildfires are getting larger and more destructive.
We're also seeing the decrease in precipitation, specifically in the fall and spring. So that spells a longer dry season in California.
Gershinov says the effects of climate change vary greatly from year to year, but it is clear the risk of large damaging fires is growing as the climate warms. The findings are published in the journal Earth's Future. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
There's signs of progress for a town devastated by wildfire. KCRA reporter Vicki Gonzalez has this story from Paradise, where one family is moving into the first rebuilt home.
The Sinclairs are celebrating a milestone with significance extending beyond their family.
Let's go.
Moving into a new chapter for the town of Paradise. Victoria and Travis Sinclair's home among the nearly 19,000 structures destroyed in the Camp Fire.
This is the first certificate of occupancy.
Now pioneering a fresh start.
Yay!
A new beginning. Their home in mint condition.
Mwah.
The first completed rebuild for the town of Paradise.
You're sleeping here tonight. I will sleep on the floor. I don't care. I am coming home today.
After 8 long months that felt like an unstable roller coaster towards eternity.
It's been trying. It's something like this will either make or break your marriage. I mean, and for us, it made it.
One home to the next, thrown into unforgiving uncertainty.
Was there ever a moment where you reconsidered or considered not coming back here, moving somewhere else?
I did. I wondered what I would be coming back to. And I mean, you'd be foolish not to consider it.
But for the Sinclairs, home goes well beyond a house.
When I was on my rubble, it still felt more at home, and there was a peace in my heart knowing that it was still going to be okay.
It seems like you have a deeper meaning of home also.
It is, very much so. For me, home is just, we planted our roots here with the intention of never leaving this spot.
A survey in April found only 2,000 people were still living in Paradise. That's down from 26,000 before the fire. A bit of a cool down is expected later this week, especially in the desert. Erin Calandra has the forecast.
Well, I hope you had a wonderful day today. The weather is nice. It is still warm, but not quite as hot as it has been. Our temperatures are going to slowly decrease now. We still have a pretty low onshore flow, pretty weak, I should say. So fewer clouds, they're not lasting as long, and we still have more sunshine. So that's what we should expect to see here for today and also into tomorrow. Here's the big picture. Not much going on here in the southwest. High pressure is dominating, so everyone is seeing some pretty calm conditions. 65 degrees for the low tonight in the metro, partly cloudy skies, and across the region expect to see a temperature of 65 in Oceanside, Ramona at 55, Borrego Springs right in those mid-70s, and Mount Laguna close to 60 tonight with a few clouds. Now the coast, it is going to be staying cool. We have that nice influence from the marine, so very comfortable conditions here, and we're also returning to normal in the deserts. Not as hot. That is wonderful news. If you have outdoor activities, shouldn't be much of a problem here. Oceanside 76 for the high, and Ramona will be at 90 degrees, and San Diego right around average at 73. El Cajon reaching 87 for the high tomorrow, and Borrego Springs sitting at 108. Mount Laguna and the mountains much more comfortable, 79 with mostly sunny skies. Now late this week, not much is going to change. It is going to be nice, dry and sunny. Along the coast, expect to see sunshine each day. Of course, those morning clouds breaking up, and our temperatures will be in those mid to low 70s each day. 75 by Sunday. And inland, expect to see that sunshine each day as well. Temperatures will be cruising through those low 80s. Very comfortable conditions here, around 81, 82 degrees. And in the deserts, we will have lots of sunshine. It's hot in the triple digits as usual. Our lows are in the 70s. And in the mountains, staying sunny and dry. Temperatures in those upper 70s, reaching 80 by Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
There's a new statewide group tasked with finding solutions to homelessness. San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is taking part. Fletcher is one of 13 people chosen by Governor Gavin Newsom for the new advisory group. Most are elected officials from across the state. The state is working with San Diego and other cities to find state-owned land to build affordable housing. There's a new shelter in San Diego that serves members of San Diego's LGBTQ community who are experiencing homelessness. It's run by the Interfaith Shelter Network, and Jackie Estrada is the program manager. Welcome. So what's new and unique about this new location in Hillcrest?
It is a new branch completely. The target population is the LGBTQ. We're not exclusive to that, but all of our shelters are LGBT friendly. But it's unique in that it is the target population in an area that really has a high need.
What are examples of this need? The fact that Hillcrest is experiencing more homelessness, or that part of town is experiencing more homelessness?
The LGBTQ group has a lot of discrimination and are not always comfortable going to shelters because of fear of further discrimination. And so in a location where our guests can then feel comfortable walking outside the streets without fear of being beat up and addressing right there in the same location.
And why might members of the LGBTQ community not feel as comfortable in a shelter that isn't specifically targeted for them, or where they would have, I guess, more of a presence?
I know that there's been a lot of discrimination at some shelters. I would hate to think that any of that was part of Interfaith Shelter Network, as we do our best to be welcoming. But in a time where we are becoming more progressive, there's still a lot of hate crimes and targeted persecution. So having a place that is isolated to that is, I think, a little more secure.
And what are you seeing as someone who's on the front lines here in San Diego when it comes to the homeless population? We now see this homeless count that is done every year, and the numbers may fluctuate ever so slightly. Mm-hmm. But what are you actually seeing? Are you seeing more people suddenly homeless, more families? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing an increase in the homeless population. Some of that is increase in the chronically homeless, as situationally homeless people on the streets are out on the streets longer before receiving services, so they sort of decline. Interfaith Shelter Network is unique as the agency that targets specifically the situationally homeless population.
So Interfaith has plans to open branches in La Mesa and in Poway. What does that say about the state of San Diego County's homeless population and situation?
Homeless population is countywide, and our branches actually cover the county extensively, and it can't just be isolated to one location. And La Mesa actually has targeted a start date of March in 2020, and we're hoping to have Poway up and running by probably the fall of 2020.
What can California lawmakers do to help with this? What would you hope that California lawmakers do more of, or what would you like to see done to help with this?
I would like to see some of the housing funding be targeted specifically for situationally homeless. Out of Interfaith Shelter Network's shelters, historically 55 to 57% of our guests end up in permanent housing, and which is a really high number, and that number is limited only by the funding that we receive. The housing program that we have is run totally on private funds.
Is there anything else that people in the public should know about the work you're doing? I would imagine, is there room for more churches to step up?
Absolutely. And we're constantly working on recruitment with that. We have congregations who've been doing this for a long time that are willing to walk alongside. It really does not take as much effort as one might think. There's no laws requiring anything in terms of permits, so it's incredibly rewarding. It's very much an honor to be invited into some of the darker parts of people's lives.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a war of words as President Trump's attacks on 4 women members of Congress continue to roil. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Ahead of tomorrow's opening day, animal advocates are raising concerns about the safety of Delmar's Racetrack. This after 30 horses died at Santa Anita earlier this year. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is in Delmar, where he talked with track officials about improvements. Matt.
Yeah, Ebony, we're out here in Delmar at the racetrack where right now all is quiet, but tomorrow is opening day and this place will be packed. Right here behind us, there's some tractors going around making sure that the track is ready for tomorrow. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this track, and Delmar racing officials tell us it's much safer than Santa Anita's.
Santa Anita made national headlines this year after 30 horses died while racing or training there. Delmar Thoroughbred Club officials are hoping the negative news doesn't keep people away from their track.
Well, I think that we've been very busy in the last month trying to tell everybody that we're not Santa Anita.
Joe Harper is CEO of the Delmar Thoroughbred Club.
There's a quarter of a mile to go.
He says a rainy winter is likely what contributed to the number of deaths at Santa Anita.
It was probably one of the wettest winters Santa Anita's ever had. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't race on a wet track, but there is a point there where the track can get oversaturated, and when you seal it, make it harder, and then have horses run on it, you're probably asking for trouble.
Delmar has had its share of problems in the past. In 2016, 23 horses died after training or racing in Delmar, making it one of the deadliest years ever.
We had to take a hard look at the track.
Harper says it's not clear why so many horses died then, but one thing they did do was redo the dirt track.
Rebank the turns a little higher. It's like picking up a carpet and fluffing it and putting it back down. Got rid of the inconsistencies in the track.
This led to far fewer deaths. In 2017, 12 horses died after training or racing in Delmar, and 9 were lost in 2018. Harper says keeping a track safe is a science.
Kind of dirt science. I mean, this thing out there, it looks like it's just a bunch of dirt, but it's alive.
During the off-season, the track, which is made up of dirt and sand, is compressed and sealed. Then the process starts of rehabbing the dirt.
They've been doing this since the fair left after the 4th of July to bring this track back up to where it's safe.
Harper says you want to have the right amount of padding so that the track isn't too hard. Without that cushion, accidents and injuries can happen. And after each injury at Delmar, horses are evaluated
and examined by veterinarians. So then a decision is made as to whether or not the horse can be saved. If it's a bad break, usually the most humane thing is to euthanize the horse.
After the recent deaths at Santa Anita, state racing officials will now require a pre-race evaluation of Delmar horses. State veterinarians will have the power to stop a horse from running. Still, some think horses shouldn't be racing at all.
What happened out at Santa Anita is not unusual. This happens every year at every racetrack, including Delmar. Horses are dying there for pure entertainment of the humans.
Ellen Erickson regularly protests the races in Delmar.
We are fighting to ban horse racing.
She says tracks can implement all the safety measures they want. If horses are still running, they will die.
There's no middle ground. Reform doesn't work. They've been trying it for years.
Erickson wants people to be more aware of the deaths and is hoping lawmakers will take notice too.
I think legislation has to happen. I think our lawmakers need to be aware of what happens at these racetracks. One dead horse is too many at any racetrack ever.
The Santa Anita deaths did get the attention of lawmakers. New legislation signed by Governor Gavin Newsom says racing may be suspended at any time to protect the safety of horses. Harper insists that the safety of horses is a top priority.
There's no cruelty to animals going on here, and we just want to make sure that we're doing everything so we know that that horse is healthy enough to be out here.
Track officials say that the 9 deaths in 2018 came as horses raced or trained on the Delmar track an estimated 75,000 times. Harper says getting to 0 deaths is a long shot.
That 0 is probably a difficult number, but it's one we're all striving for.
Delmar says in general there are 2 types of people that attend its races.
We have the hardcore racetrack guy who comes out just to bet and look at the horses, and then we have everybody else that comes out to wear hats and have a party and go to the concerts and do all the fun things like, chili cook-offs and wine tasting and beer fests and things like that.
And it's that casual patron that the racetrack is afraid of losing.
We kind of expected some kind of negative impact from Santa Anita. Our sales are down slightly, seats and stuff. Some areas are up. It was less than I thought.
Harper says he hopes people will see that Delmar is doing what they can to prioritize horse safety.
I have some good friends who say, it just, makes me nervous to watch a race. Sometimes it makes me nervous to watch a race too. I want to get over that. I want to make sure we've done everything so these horses are out here you know, we all feel comfortable, hey, they're good.
Back out here live at the track, Delmar says this year during morning warm-ups, they'll have veterinarians out here watching the horses train, and if any horses appear injured, then these veterinarians have the chance to pull them off the track. That's going to be something for the first time that they're implementing here in Delmar. The 2019 summer racing season kicks off here at 2 p.m. That's going to be the first race in Delmar. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The PBS Summer of Space continues with the immersive space race story, Chasing the Moon.
It's hard to appreciate how truly desperate this rivalry was, with each out to destroy the other.
Then Nova reveals Apollo's most daring mission.
First to leave the Earth, first to go into lunar orbit.
We were not ready.
Chasing the Moon and Nova, Apollo's daring mission on the PBS Summer of Space.
Tune in or stream Tuesday starting at 8 on KPBS.
Come to the beginning.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
The 50th Comic-Con begins with preview night at the Convention Center. Back in 1970, the first Comic-Con drew 300 people in the basement of the U.S. Grant Hotel. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando had Jackie Estrada, who has attended every show, share her Comic-Con memories.
My name is Jackie Estrada, and I'm one of a handful of people who've been to every single San Diego Comic-Con. And over the years, I had many different positions. I was handling PR, I was handling the Artist Alley, and I edited the souvenir book and the events guide many times. And since 1990, I've been the administrator of the Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards. Comic book people, photographs from the 1970s and 1980s, how this came about was I was a photographer back in that era. I did my own developing, did my own printing, and I took hundreds of pictures every year, starting in about 1978. And we have Bob Kane drawing Batman, which you didn't see too often in those days, because he usually had other people draw Batman. People from the golden and silver age of comics, the people who maybe weren't appreciated during their period, but they came to Comic-Con. So when you think of Shazam and Captain Marvel, C.C. Beck is the guy who drew Captain Marvel. He came, brought a guitar and sat and played music at the blood drive. We have here Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who created Superman. And they're just hanging around. Here's Jerry Siegel dancing with his wife at a party. Mark Hamill just snuck down to the show from LA because his friends Bill Mumy and Miguel Ferrer had a band that was playing, so he wanted to see them. They were called Seduction of the Innocent. Bill Mumy, Miguel's on the drums, there he is there, and they wrote a song called King Jack, or King Kirby, that was about Jack Kirby. So here's Jack and his wife Roz dancing to Seduction of the Innocent, playing a song that they wrote about him. I guess the only other thing I'd say is that some of the photos I have, nobody else got a picture of that person when they were at the show. So that's the one evidence that they had that Golden Age person or that Underground Comics person was at Comic-Con. I don't know why people didn't take as many photos back then as I just felt like I needed to document it. But the year Alan Moore came, it seems like I'm the only one that took pictures of Alan Moore. This is the very first program from the very first Comic-Con in 1970. The great Jack Kirby did a wraparound cover. And then the inside has the program in it and just some pinups and things. But it was called the San Diego Golden State Comic-Con for the first year, for the first couple of years, but it did become Comic-Con in the third year. So one of the things I liked is that we would also do themes, and we still do some themes for the programming, but like the theme in 1983 was the 60s. Can't quote exactly, but at some point Jack Kirby says, I can see in the future people coming from all over the world to San Diego, not just for comics, but because they're fans of other things too, like maybe science fiction or movies or something. And you listen to that today and you just think, wow, he was far out there at the time, and people didn't know how prophetic he was.
130,000 people are expected to attend Comic-Con this year. Well, after 10 years, the East County Performing Arts Center will reopen with a new name and makeover. The El Cajon venue will be called the Magnolia when it opens September 13th. The city will pay concert promoter Live Nation to operate the theater and book events. The old Performing Arts Center was closed in 2009 due to budget cuts. Now here's a recap of tonight's top stories. New asylum rules are in effect at the border. A group of about a dozen asylum seekers were allowed into the U.S. today. The Trump administration is blocking asylum for anyone who travels through another country to reach the U.S. Transfers of nuclear waste are resuming at Santa Anita. The process had been delayed since last year due to a near-miss accident. Regulators say the canisters are safe despite concerns from some who live in the area. San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher will join a new statewide panel on homelessness. He and other elected officials will come up with solutions and advise the governor. Fletcher is one of 13 members of the group and the only one from the San Diego region. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.